Thank you very much, councillors, members of staff, members of the gallery and the press. A warm welcome to you. I declare open the June meeting of Temora Shire Council, and in doing so, I advise that this meeting is being recorded and will be placed on Temora Shire Council's webpage for public information. And all present today, we are reminded that whilst we are speaking, that we agree that our views and our comments are being recorded and published. And we're also reminded that if or when that we are speaking, we are, of course, to be respectful to others and use the appropriate language. Temora Shire Council accepts no liability for any defamatory or offensive remarks or gestures during this council meeting. I'd now like to invite Mr. Glenn Parsons, who is representing the Sacred Heart Catholic Church, to lead us in our opening prayer, please. Thank you, Mr. Parsons.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Almighty and ever-living God, we pray that as our Shire councillors meet this afternoon, you send down your blessing upon them as they deliberate for the well-being and advancement of our Temora Shire and all its people. And we give thanks for our councillors and all our council staff for their dedication and hard work. We ask that you bless all our people. We give thanks that in an increasingly difficult and divided world, we live in a society where religious faith, personal rights, and political persuasions are able to be freely expressed and practiced. We pray for rain. We give thanks for our farmers and pray they may be blessed with a good season and reap a fruitful harvest. We give thanks for those people who freely give their time as volunteers, and we ask that you bless them in their work. We pray for all those people who are experiencing hardship, loneliness, and emotional distress. And we pray for our sick and infirm, and for all those who have died. For those people whose funerals are to take place next week, Doris Fritsch, Kayleen Brown, and Rodney Kite. And we ask all this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Parsons. They're beautiful words, and we're most grateful that you were able to be present to deliver them.
Thank you, and good afternoon.
Thank you. Councillors, we now proceed to our acknowledgement of countries. We begin our meeting today. Temora Shire Council acknowledge the traditional owners of Temora Shire's land and waters, the Wiradjuri people, and we acknowledge their continued connection to country and culture, and we pay our heartfelt respects to elders both past and present, acknowledging their contribution to the Temora Shire community, a place we all call home. So thank you very much. We do have apologies, Madam General Manager, from Councillor Good. No further apologies. Councillor Good has a special occasion to witness his son being admitted as a solicitor, so we wish the Good family nothing but the very best. Would someone please move that Councillor Good's apologies approved? Thank you, Councillor Reinhold. Councillor Oliver. Thank you. Moved. Seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Councillor Reinhold, would you please swap your nameplate from Mrs. Golder to Councillor Reinhold, in case I mess up. Thank you. Thank you very much. Councillors, at this stage, any declarations of any interests that councillors would like to make at this time, or senior staff? Councillor Oliver.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have one in a pecuniary interest in assets and operations report.
Thank you, Councillor Oliver. Councillor Judd.
Yeah, got an item in confidential.
Thank you.
They're an interest.
Thanks, Councillor Judd. Further declarations, Councillor McLaren.
An item in assets and ops.
Thank you, Councillor McLaren. The Director.
Also an assets and ops item, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Those have been noted, and thank you very much. And if you think of something later, of course, you are welcome to raise it. Now, councillors, let's go to confirmation of the May meeting of Temora Shire Council. Is some councillor able to please move that they be received as a true and correct record? Thank you, Councillor Bushell. Seconder for the motion, Councillor Judd. Thank you. Moved. Seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Any matters arising, Madam General Manager, please?
Through you, Mr Mayor, no there isn't, thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, we now proceed to a mayoral minute. Number 1, councillors, staff and our Temora Shire community will have learned of the passing of one of our previous Citizens of the Year, Mrs Alison G. Frater. Mrs Frater, together with her late husband, Mr L.C. Frater, OAM, were announced as Joint Citizens of the Year for Temora Shire in 2007. This was a significant acknowledgement of the crucial role in the formation and the longevity of what was previously known as the Temora branch of Cancer Patients Assistance Society, now known as Can Assist. Whilst Mr Frater held countless other community executive roles throughout the Temora Shire, it was Mrs Frater who gave that gracious, capable and unwavering support in all their community roles. The Fraters have a proud history with local government in Temora Shire, with the late Mr A.A. Frater being Narrabri Shire President for several terms from 1931 to 1935, and Mrs Frater's family, the Donaldsons, had the role of President from 1943 to 1948. The thoughts and prayers of Temora Shire Council, together with our Shire community, remain with Mrs Frater's family. As is customary when we have one of our Citizens of the Year pass away, we pay our respects. Accordingly, I invite all gathered in the chamber to please rise in your places as we observe a moment's silence in honour of the late Joint Citizen of the Year, Mrs Alison Frater. Thank you very much, councillors and staff and gallery. Number 2, council will have now learned of the announcement made by our Australian Local Government Association, ALGA President and Sydney City Councillor, Councillor Linda Scott, that she will not be recontesting this year's council elections. Councillor Scott, a highly respected former Local Government New South Wales President, made a personal approach to Temora Shire to advise of her decision, which is appreciated. And I formally place on record Temora Shire Council's warm appreciation for Councillor Scott's relentless advocacy for rural and regional issues. Councillor Scott's constant communication with the rural and regional sector, especially Temora Shire, has been tremendous. Councillor Scott oozes integrity and is extremely capable and visionary, and she is also great fun. Temora Shire wishes Councillor Scott and her family nothing but good health and continued happiness. And there's a recommendation there, councillors, that Temora Shire Council writes to Councillor Scott expressing our appreciation and good wishes on her pending retirement from local government. Number 3, Council was thrilled to learn of the further $15 million the New South Wales Government have recently announced in their state budget for our nurses' accommodation. This brings the total funds allocated to our new Temora District Hospital of a staggering $95 million. I've verbally spoken with the New South Wales Minister for Regional Health, the Honourable Ryan Park MP, our State Member for Cootamundra, Ms Steph Cook MP, and Murrumbidgee Local Health District Chief Executive, Mrs Jill Ludford, to express how deeply grateful Temora Shire is for this crucial investment in our present and future. I know how pleased our hospital manager, Mrs Wendy Skidmore, is, together with her team. This news is certainly assisting with staff recruitment, which is most encouraging. When I speak to several other mayors and councillors across rural and regional New South Wales, they've had some funds taken off them in the health space. And this only further reminds me of how blessed Temora Shire is, and we must always be mindful of this. So the General Manager and I have written a warm letter of appreciation to Minister Park and the New South Wales Government for the allocation of these additional funds. And in the meantime, the General Manager and I will be further briefed on Tuesday the 25th of June at 3:30 in a Teams meeting regarding the Temora District Hospital redevelopment, and I understand there'll be a briefing for Council in August for further updates in relation to Temora District Hospital. So there's a recommendation there, councillors, that Council endorse the actions of the Mayor and the General Manager in that space, and of course the recommendation that the recommendations, the remainder of the mayoral minute, be adopted. Thank you, Councillor Bushell. Thank you, the Deputy Mayor. Councillor Sinclair moved, seconded. Discussion. Councillor Judd, did you wish to talk on?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. First on Mrs Frater, probably pertinent to only mention Mrs Frater at the last meeting on the 20th anniversary of the fundraising for Lilia Lodge in Wagga. As Mayor at the time, I worked with Lindsay and Alison to raise much needed funds for Lilia Lodge, and I think Temora District Committee is one of the highest ones in raising the funds, and we pay tribute to both Lindsay and Alison for the work they did. So, and secondly, I had the pleasure of working with and knowing Linda Scott a number of times as well, and it's probably pertinent that also that it's only recently that local government's been given a seat around the cabinet table, the federal cabinet table, and no better person to represent local government than Linda Scott. So we're great that she had that opportunity. So, and we wish her well in her future endeavours. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Judd. And yes, you are quite right that the sector was pushing to have a seat at the table for many years at the National Cabinet. And it's only, I think, this current government that allowed her to have a permanent seat, which I know the sector is very, very grateful for. So thanks very much, Councillor Judd. There's no further discussion on the motion. I'll put that to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. So, councillors, let's go to our business paper, starting from page 11. Minutes of Council's Temora Agricultural Innovation Centre Partnership Committee, and the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair, is the chairman.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I move the report be received.
Thank you. Councillor Sinclair, the Deputy Mayor, has moved the reports received. Seconded, Councillor Oliver. Moved, seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair, do you have anything you wish to highlight?
No, Mr Mayor. I think it's pretty straightforward.
Thank you. Councillors, the report and recommendations are there for your consideration. The Deputy Mayor, sorry, can you? Thank you. I go to Councillor Irvine.
Just a question for the General Manager. I completed some work for FarmLink, just a small signwriting job recently. There's a number of other businesses and that get named on a regular basis in council paperwork. Do I have to disclose an interest every time someone that I've had up dealing with does anything relative to council, or is it only when there's a specific decision point that may affect a future income? Because otherwise it's pretty difficult when you work for multiple clients and on a basis that was in place well before I was on council, like I've got no problems if I have to, but I just think it's going to be inconvenient, or I'll do it at the start of every meeting.
You're just seeking clarity, Councillor Irvine. Yeah, thank you. The General Manager.
Through you, Mr Mayor, in this particular occasion, you actually declared in the meeting of the completion of that particular piece of signwriting, and so that was noted. It wasn't necessarily noted as a conflict of interest because it wasn't associated with any particular matter within the report itself, but because you did note it in the meeting, we felt best to capture that was shared by yourself in that meeting.
Thank you. Councillor Irvine.
If I might, I've got no problem doing that on every occasion, but there'll be a number of matters that come up tonight that I just have to keep saying I've worked for this person in the last 6 months, I've worked for this person in the last 6 months. So is that going to be an issue?
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. The General Manager.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, my advice is always to err on the side of caution. That if you would like to raise the interest and then make a determination about whether or not you're conflicted, depending on the nature of the debate and the way in which the reporting proceeds. So it sometimes is tricky to know whether or not you're going to be conflicted at the beginning of debate, but as the debate goes on, if you find you are conflicted and need to raise it, you can. If you feel you need to leave the room at any point, you can. So I think err on the side of caution is probably the best advice, but it's not necessarily known always that you're going to have a conflict until you get into some of the discussion that does happen with some of these matters.
Thank you very, very much. So, councillors, you have the report and recommendations there from the Temora Agriculture Innovation Centre Partnership Committee. Someone prepared to move those recommendations, or is there an alternate? Councillor Judd, seconded Councillor Bushell. Thank you. Moved, seconded. Further discussion? There's no further discussion. I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare that carried. Thank you very much. Let's go over to page 28, Assets and Operations Committee meeting, and again the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair, is the chairman.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I'll move the
thank
report
you.
be received.
Thanks, Mr Deputy Mayor, and Councillor Oliver has left the chamber, and the Director of Environmental Services, and Councillor McLaren? Yes, Councillor McLaren is also vacating the chamber. Moved and seconded, the reports received. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. So it was Councillor Bushell and Councillor Judd. Thank you. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair, anything you wish to highlight from the Assets and Operations Committee report, please?
No, Mr Mayor.
No, thank you. Councillors, you have the report there for you to consider, which certainly the committee has considered those matters thoroughly. They're there for the council to consider, to adopt, or if there's an alternate resolution. Councillor Bushell. Thank you. Councillor Bushell is moving the Assets and Operations Committee report and recommendations. Seconder for the motion. Thank you, Councillor Judd. Moved, seconded, discussion. There's no discussion. I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Councillor Reinhold. Thank you. They're lurking around. Thank you. Welcome back to the Chamber, Councillor Oliver. Councillor McLaren, Director of Environmental Services. During your temporary absence, Council resolved to adopt the reports and recommendations of the Assets and Operations Committee in their entirety, and that was carried unanimously. So thank you. Now, let's go, councillors, to page 74. Council's Economic Development Visitations Committee report, and Councillor McLaren's the chairman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move that the report be received.
Thank you. Councillor McLaren has moved that the Economic Development Visitations Committee report received. Is there a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Oliver. Moved, seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare that carried. Thank you. Councillor McLaren, any items you wish to highlight, please?
No, not particularly. The report is as written. There's a fairly extensive drought resilience report there, but the report is as written.
Thanks, Councillor McLaren. Councillors, any discussion on the report? If not, there are recommendations to consider for adoption. Councillor Bushell? Thank you. Councillor Bushell is moving the Economic Development Visitations Committee report and recommendations. Thank you. Seconder for that? Councillor Reinhold, thank you. Moved, seconded. Discussion? There's no discussion. In discussion, councillors, you will note on page 115 of your business paper, under the General Manager, it has morning. That has no relevance to anything about the General Manager at all, so that has been since corrected. on the official record, so just by way of explanation. So if there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Councillors, let's go over to page 119, the Aerodrome Users Committee report, and Councillor Judd is the chairman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll move the report be received.
Thank you. Councillor Judd has moved the Aerodrome Users Committee report be received. Is there a seconder for the motion, please? Thank you. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair, moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare that carried. Thank you. Councillor Judd, did you have any items you wish to highlight?
Just parachute training at the aerodrome still being suspended. We don't know when it's going to be resumed after the accident earlier this year. But, and we also adopted the diagram that's on page 122. It's and the assets manager might want to explain that, but anyway. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Judd. Does the manager wish to comment?
Not particularly, only if there's questions.
Thank you. Councillor Bushell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I do have a question. What does the acronym stand for?
Thank you. The manager. Oh, you want to have a look, see?
FAC, you're talking about? En route supplement document or something like that. It's basically, it goes on the Air Services Australia website, and that's where all of the pilots go. It's a central database for all airport information, and that's where everybody collects it from. But as to the exact...
You'll take it on notice,
yeah,
Mr Manager.
I don't fly a plane.
Yeah, well, thank you for the attempt. And we'll get back to you, Councillor Bushell. Councillors, you have the Aerodrome Users Committee report and its recommendations. Councillor Irvine.
In general discussions around the table after the main business of the meeting, there was some discussion around the upcoming development at the airfield, the new house and hangar development, and then also the event Warbirds Down Under. So there it's going to need to be a high level of cooperation between the developer and perhaps the Aviation Museum in terms of just making sure that those two projects work together well. I think the new taxiway comes down and works in that area are going to affect what they used to use as display space. So there's just going to have to be some good cooperation in that space coming up to that, and that's rolling around fairly quickly. I think it's in October, so it's coming like a train. Winter will be over soon. Everyone will come out of their boroughs and it'll happen. So, and I saw the surveyors out at that job today. So something's going to happen pretty quick. Anyway, just something to note for council if there's any role we can play, smooth out any hiccups there to be worthwhile.
Thanks very much, Councillor Irvine. I think that council would agree with that, and I'm sure the team will be doing their best as always in that space. So you have some recommendations there to consider from the Aerodrome Users Committee report. Is someone prepared to move that way, or is there an alternate motion? Councillor Oliver?
I'll move the report. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Oliver is moving the Aerodrome Users Committee report and recommendations. Thank you. Councillor Judd has seconded the motion. Further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Let's go to page 125, delegates' reports. Do we have delegates' reports, please? Thank you. Councillor Oliver.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Last Tuesday, Committee Day, we had the opportunity to cater for 75 people who arrived by rail motor at the railway station. And it was a cold and miserable day, but we served them up sausages and bit of pumpkin soup and the like. I must say the pumpkin soup went pretty quickly.
I understand you were the chef.
Well, yes,
Councillor
I don't want to admit any liability, but I haven't had any complaints furnished so far. But on a sad note, we've lost one of our volunteers yesterday morning, and Glenn Parsons mentioned it in his prayers. Rodney Kite passed away suddenly. He had some heart problems. He had a heart operation here about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and evidently it wasn't successful. So he was found yesterday morning non-responsive in his hallway at home. So he'll be a sad loss for us. Irreplaceable, I would say, with his knowledge and the way he delivered his spiel. So he's quite entertaining fellow, yeah. Very dry wit, very dry humour. But anyway, that's it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Alderman. Look, your fellow councillors and our staff at Temora Shire, we know how important Mr. Kite was to you and your fellow team members at the Railway Museum, and our prayers and thoughts and strength are with you and your fellow volunteers up there, and we know that his respected name will be continued to be honoured, so thank you. We go to the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just the local government committee has been meeting to put together an itinerary for the local government week. I think everyone may have got a call or an email asking if they could help out at a few events and so forth. So keep that all in mind, not that far away. On the 28th of May, I attended Lake Committee AGM. The main positions are still the same. Simon Forsyth is once again the president. On the 30th, attended a dinner with two councillors from the Randwick Council, just purely a social evening along with Councillor Bushell, Councillor Oliver and Councillor Good and the Director of Administration and Finance. And that was just a function in Wagga and come across for just have a dinner with us. It was good to catch up with them. 4th of June was the Weeds Committee meeting in Junee. As the Director of Environmental Service himself went across to. There's been a bit of a change, unfortunately, I think, in as far as the way the funding and the reporting is handled. I think it's, the Director probably more information about than I do, but yeah, as most things like that, it's well, I'll say a step backwards rather than a step forward, I think. So.
Yeah, definitely an increase in red tape. So, and there's even a threat to the organisation of Renoir to the ability for it to act as a sort of a county council sort of thing. So that's still got to play out. So I will report back to council as that develops.
Yeah. And on the 14th of June, attended the Aviation Museum, had a dinner acknowledging the work of Murray Keir as the CEO, who retired from the position, and Peter Harper, who's been there for years and years, is taking over that top position. He has been the general manager there, so the general manager himself represented council at that function. So that's it, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks very much, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and particularly stepping up on a few things that I really appreciate you doing that, so as does Council. Councillors, any further delegates' reports? Councillor Judd.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Engineering Assets Manager myself attended the New South Wales Local Roads Congress on the 3rd of June, and yeah, it was a very good report, and we'll probably comment full report in the information paper and might comment later on that. Thank you. Thanks very much, Councillor Judd, and thank you and the Engineering Asset Manager for representing Temora Shire. That conference seems to be growing in, relevance and prestige more and more each year, and
from reading the detailed report, it certainly seems worthwhile attending, that's for sure. So thank you. Further delegates' reports, just a few things. The CMA, Country Mayors Association Conference in Kempsey last week, it was a real eye-opener. Of course, the theme was roads and transport. And again, similar themes when we had Minister Aitchison there as what you've read in the report from Councillor Judd and the engineering asset manager, that she wants to get back to basics on those local roads. Really amplified that point. And once also that for those disasters, that simplified application process, she realises that it's a nightmare for councils, and she's trying to work with her team to ensure that that process is simplified. Of course, something very exciting for country mayors is the NRMA. We had some meetings with some of the hierarchy at NRMA, and they're wanting to discuss ways in which they can further work closer together with country mayors, which we think is exciting because obviously they're a very resource-rich organisation and very influential with government, state and federal. So we're looking forward to having further discussions with them. Full time, siren. So look, it went well, councillors, and we were at the Slim Dusty Centre. It was a special privilege to have been there with 50 other delegates from around of the 89 members of the Country Mayor's family, and we were very pleased with how it all went. And the Mayor of Kempsey could not have been more hospitable. He dropped me off, picked me up everywhere. It was just, it was fantastic, and I feel so grateful to him, and I've written to share my appreciation. Councillors, the General Manager and I will be attending the REROC Board meeting on Friday the 28th of June, and in amongst the important agenda, of course, will be farewelling formally the former Mayor of Junee Shire, Neil Smith, that we haven't been able to do yet, and of course Mr Peter Veneris, the General Manager of Lockhart Shire, who is of course retiring as well. And lastly, I wanted to mention I was honoured to have received the debutantes at the Area Park Ball. Councillor Judd was, of course, on holidays, and I was very pleased to step in for Councillor Judd, and it was a fantastic occasion. The debutantes were lovely. The partners were certainly very dapper, and the crowd, I just couldn't get over the number of people in the Area Park Memorial Hall. It was phenomenal how many come back in there. And one of the things that brought the broadest smile to my face was after their formal Pride of Erin dance, seeing then the debutantes' partners, the Flower Girls and Page Boys, then doing the chicken dance. It was hilarious. They all just had so much fun, and I do warmly congratulate Mr Bill Spears, who's the Chairman of the Anglican Parish Council, Mrs Debbie Warland, and all of those that helped, because it was just a very, very special occasion. So thank you very much. No further delegates' reports? If not, let's go to page 126, please. The Mayor's report for the month of May. And there's a recommendation on page 129 that the Mayor's report be noted. Thank you. Councillor Oliver, Councillor Reinhold, moved and seconded that the Mayor's report be noted. Moved, seconded, discussion, the Deputy Mayor.
Yes, no, it's on page 126, under the 3rd of May, at the last paragraph, the about intersales. This is to acknowledge the mayoral award.
There what? Oh, no. No, we don't have a best machinery award.
I just picked that.
Yeah, well, thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor, because I don't know what happened there. So if the If we can correct that, thank you for reading the report. This was to acknowledge their award of being the best. Yes, thank you. So the mover and seconder are happy to incorporate that amendment. Thank you. So I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. The contrary, no. Declare that carried. Thank you very much. Right, we put that in deliberately. So councillors, let's go to page 130, staff reports. A motion please to receive staff reports. Thank you. Councillor Bushell. Councillor Reinhold. Thank you. Moved. Seconded. All those of that opinion please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare that carried. Thank you. Page 131, the General Manager's report, 12.1, calendar of events. General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The report is as written. We do have a couple of additional things to add for August that we will include in the report. So on the 8th of August, the Joint Organisations Chairman's Network meeting is being held. And on the 9th of August, the Country Mayors Association meeting is being held. So they'll be added to the report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks very much, Madam General Manager. Councillors, you've heard the additions to the calendar of events. Councillor Bushell?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move the additions and the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Bushell's moving the additions to the calendar of events and indeed the calendar of events as listed, that they be noted. Seconder for the motion, please. Thank you, Councillor Reinhold. Moved. Seconded. Further discussion? If not, and Councillor, just in relation to what the Deputy Mayor was saying, Local Government Week, you'll be given, I think we've signed some various invitation things for various Local Government Week activities, so you'll be made aware of those. I'm not sure whether they need to be included in the July paper. We can consider that. Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare that carried. Thank you. Over to page 132, 12.2, the seals for June, the General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have one seal listed in the business paper report that's gone out to councillors. We've had a couple of additional ones to include that we would like added to the report this evening for adoption by council. They are the RRL deed of agreement from the 1st of July 2022 to the 30th of June 2026. This is as a result of the transition of Wagga out of the agreement, and so we need to re-sign that agreement. The other one is Transport for New South Wales. We've had a deed of variation to the Community Transport Service contract, and that requires a seal too. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Madam General Manager. So, councillors, you see there on page 132, the recommendation seal be affixed. Now, of course, to those three items. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair, has moved the motion. Seconder, thank you, Councillor Reinhold. Moved and seconded. Discussion. There's no discussion. I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Contrary, no. Declare that carried. Thank you very much. Over to page 133, 12.3, council meeting dates. The General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've been working towards having a program for the new council post-election on the 14th of September. As part of that process, we've identified that there won't be a council meeting in September, that the October council meeting, the first council meeting will be the 17th of October, which will be taken up with quite a lot of the business associated with the election of mayor, deputy mayor and committee representation. And so we're requesting that council endorse for an extraordinary meeting to be held on the 24th of October. This is primarily to address the financial statements, just due to the timing of how this will all occur post-election. In addition to that, we've already made a commitment to attend the Local Government New South Wales annual conference from the 17th to the 19th of November. And as in previous years, we're recommending that we move the council meeting date just to enable any of the delegates to have time to consider the business paper, but also for myself as a General Manager to finalise that business paper. It will not impact the committee meetings in November, but it will move the council meeting back to the 28th of November. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Madam General Manager. Councillors, you have that report there in front of you, and thank the General Manager for going into that level of detail, because it obviously is extremely busy time on top of the normal workload with elections coming up. So, councillors, you have the report there and a recommendation on the bottom of page 134 for council to consider. Councillor Sinclair, the Deputy Mayor, you're moving the recommendation. That is that the 2024 council meeting dates be amended to include an extraordinary meeting on Thursday the 24th of October 2024, and that the November council meeting be held on Thursday the 28th of November 2024. Seconded, Councillor Reinhold. Thank you. Moved. Seconded. Discussion. No discussion. We'll put the motion. Discussion. Councillor Bushell.
Sorry. Thank you, Mr Mayor. I momentarily fell asleep or something. I don't know what it was. I was just thinking when I read the report, is there any need for December committee meetings? Is that too much of a tight turnaround as well? I just thought that's maybe a little bit too much pressure on staff as well.
Thank you, Councillor Bushell. The General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We did consider how this does impact on December, but felt, given that we won't be having committee meetings in either September or October, there's probably going to be quite a lot of operational, or January actually, quite a lot of operational work to continue to work through. Generally, committee reports come from directors and managers as opposed to the General Manager, and so I think we can facilitate that level of programming ahead of time.
Thank you, Madam General Manager. Thank you, Councillor Bushell, for your consideration. That's very kind. Well, you have the motion moved by the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair, and Councillor Reinhold that, hang on, yes, that the recommendation be approved. There's no further discussion. I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Anything of an urgent, late nature, Madam General Manager, please?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Let's go over to page 135, the Engineering Services Department Report, 13.1, Budget Update. The Engineering Asset Manager.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. Listen, the report is as written, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr Manager. I think Council appreciate the detail in the report and the layman's terms manner in which it has been written. But yeah, very important information that is contained within that report for Council to absorb. Councillor Judd.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. There'll be a lot of other years when racing to spend money before it's end of June, so, but this is a different way again, so.
That's exactly right. The Manager?
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. We're still racing to spend money. It's just some of the ones have gone over. So that we've still got quite a lot of outstanding projects, and that's going to continue to be the case for some time, probably, I don't know, could be forever, I'm not sure. But it's a bit of a challenging time at the moment when we've got lots of work happening and competing deadlines, and we're using contract services, and a lot of the risk sits with council. So I guess what I'm saying is that this probably won't be the last time that we talk about this sort of stuff. But, yeah.
Thank you, Mr Manager. And there is a further report that will be furnished to Council at the July Assets Committee meeting. Well, Councillors, the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
I'll move that Council note the report.
Thank you. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair, has moved that we note the report. Seconded for the motion, Councillor Oliver. Thank you. Moved. Seconded. Further discussion? There's no further discussion. I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Mr Manager, do you have anything of an urgent late nature, please?
No, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And Council, again, extend our warm appreciation for, I suppose, the additional workload that you are subjected to at the moment. And Council thanks you very, very much. Let's go to page 137, the Environmental Services Department report, 14.1, proposed development. The Director.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. This is a planning report for...
Sorry, Councillor Irvine.
I've completed some work for Phil Smith Building recently, just general stuff.
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. That's noted. The Director, thank you.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yeah, planning report for a multi-unit development at 46 Cootamundra Road. 6 two-bedroom brick veneer units are proposed. This was put out on public exhibition and neighbour notification. No submissions were received. However, as the applicant wishes to vary one of the development standards relating to private open space on page 141, we thought it prudent to bring it to council for their endorsement.
Thanks, Mr Director. Councillors, it's exciting to see, again, more development in this space, and I know it warmly welcomed by Council and the Shire community. So, Councillors, you have the report there, very detailed report for you to consider, and a recommendation there also. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I've looked at the recommendation. It is going to be a tight fit on the block. It's a very narrow block, but I think this sort of development adds another level of accommodation to the town. I think it's probably a good fit, but going to help a lot of people out. So, yeah, I think overall it's a good project.
Thanks, Mr Deputy Mayor. So you have moved the recommendation, that is that Council approve the development application 18-2024 multi-unit development 46 Cootamundra Road, Temora, subject to the conditions listed. Is there a second for the motion? Councillor Bushell. Thank you. Discussion on the motion, please. Councillor Judd.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. To be consistent, I commented on a previous unit development saying I thought the units were too close together, and I'll say about this one as well, but yeah, so it just worries me when things are so close. It also worries me with, it's not so bad if this is the only one, but we had too many of these, but we don't have any landscaping or anything to absorb any moisture, and it's all runoff, you know, so anyway, I'll just express my concerns, but I'm still going to vote to support it though.
Thanks, Councillor Judd. I think probably many of us thought what you and the Deputy Mayor have expressed, but the Director, do you have any comments in response to Councillor Judd's comments?
Not particularly. Those issues with stormwater runoff have been addressed in the application and have been considered. Yeah, this type of development won't suit everyone, but it will serve a purpose, so that's why we're recommending approval with those conditions.
Thanks, Mr Director. Go now to Councillor Irvine.
Just the Director of Environmental Services, I recall that we did approve a development, I think it was around the Hoskin Street area for reduced private open space in some units 12, 18 months ago. We've done it before.
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. The Director.
Yeah, that is correct, and yeah, that was a council decision at the time as well, so just to be consistent.
Thank you. Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Can I just ask the Director of Engineering Assets about the state of Matthews Road, and were we considering closing that some years previous, or are we going to surface it with bitumen, or what's the future of that road?
Thank you, Councillor McLaren. We go to the Engineering Assets Manager.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. So Matthew Street has been sealed up to the last block, but the last developed block, the last 150 odd metres we've left unsealed because of the uncertainty around that area. Old Cootamundra Road, Gardner Street, Gallipoli Street, Bulkhead Road, and how that fits together. And there's also a large waterway there that would need either a significant box culvert or a concrete causeway or something similar, which would run into a fair bit of money. But back towards Deboo Street is sealed. From the development back to Deboo Street is fully sealed.
So when they exit their block, they'll be heading west, potentially.
Manager?
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor. That's correct. If they head west, they're on a sealed road the whole way.
Thank you, Mr Manager. Thank you, Councillor McLaren. Councillor Oliver.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. The other day I was trying to, there was a train stalled on the Junee Road crossing. I drove down that road to go in the old Cootamundra Road crossing. That causeway is quite deep, and I would say as soon as these houses are developed, there's going to be requests coming in to want that fixed up, because even in the bus it was quite deep, up to nearly to the bottom of the door. So although the bus does sit low, but yeah, as I was saying, I think as soon as these buildings are completed and they've taken up occupancy, they'll be certainly looking for something, an upgrade or something or other. So thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a comment.
Thanks, Councillor Oliver, and I'm sure that's noted. Does the Director have a comment in response?
Oh, the Matthew Street at the back of that development is bitumen sealed, high quality. They can get smooth access to the main street quite simply. So that's the route that would be taken on 95% of the journeys, I would suggest.
Thank you. Well, councillors, the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair and Councillor Bushell have moved that Council approve the development application before us. So I'm now going to ask councillors for a show of hands, given it's a development application, to indicate how they wish to vote. So all those of that opinion, please raise your hands. I declare the motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Anything of an urgent late nature, Mr Director?
No, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, let's now go to page 149, the Administration Finance Department report, 15.1, the draft operational delivery resourcing strategy. The Director.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So our 3 plans have been on public exhibition for 28 days with no submissions being received. So the recommendation is that those documents now be adopted. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Madam Director. Pardon me. Councillors, you have the report there, a very important report for obviously the next 12 months. Councillor Bushell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd just like to move the recommendation, please.
Thank you. So Councillor Bushell is moving that Council adopt the draft operational plan 2024-25, the draft delivery plan 2024 to 2028, and the draft resourcing strategy 2024 to 2034. Is there a seconder for the motion, please? Thank you, Councillor Judd. Moved, seconded. Discussion. Councillors, obviously in this it's a surplus after capital that we're projecting around that 117,000, Madam Director. We're talking around an $18.8 million capital works program, which is significant. I know the team, all of our staff that are involved in the various departments will do their best, if this motion passes, to ensure those works are carried out. And overall, yep, times are tough. I know that we've got 4.5% increase that we're allowed to have, according to IPATH, so that's certainly better than what we've had over recent years, and things are tough for all of us. We say it regularly because it's the facts of the matter, and it is responsible that this council and future councils discuss all options in terms of how we can improve the overall financial situation that every other council in rural region of New South Wales are experiencing. But overall, there's a heck of a lot worse off than Temora Shire. Councillors, you have the motion there before you. If there's no further discussion, I will put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Councillor, we go over to page 150, 15.2, rates and charges. The Director.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So the proposed rates and charges are in accordance with the operational plan that's just been adopted. The report's as written. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Madam Director. Councillors, you have the report there for you to consider and a recommendation on page 152 for Council to consider. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
I'll move the recommendation on page 152.
Thank you. The Deputy Mayor has moved recommendation that Council make the above rate and charges for 2024-2025. Seconded, Councillor Bushell. Moved, seconded, discussion. There's no further discussion. I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Councillors, let's go over to page 153, 15.3, the maximum interest rating. The Director.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So in previous years, Council has always adopted the maximum allowable interest rate on outstanding rates. This year, the Minister's determined that that should be 10.5%, and the recommendation is that we adopt that maximum interest rate. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Madam Director. I think we're blessed in Temora Shire. If you look at how our ratepayers behave, it's phenomenal. Even during tough times, they're still paying their rates in a timely manner, and we're very grateful for that. Councillor Bushell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd just like to move the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bushell is moving the recommendation that Council adopts the maximum interest rate of 10.5% for the 2024-2025 year. So thank you, Councillor Bushell. Is there a seconder for the motion, please? Thank you, Councillor McLaren. No, were you, Councillor McLaren? Moved, seconded, discussion. No discussion. I will put the motion to you. All those with that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Page 154, 15.4, draft fees and charges. The the Director.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So the draft fees and charges have been on exhibition for 28 days. A number of staff identified a number of additional items to be included and also a change, and they're noted in the report. So I'm happy to take any questions on those.
Thank you, Madam Director. Councillor Bushell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I do have a question. You talked about the internment service levy. You gave us a bit of a heads up about that it would be coming in, and you weren't certain on all the information. So what is that on the staff? Do they have to report and lodge a monthly return, or is it an annual return with that levy amount? How does it all work?
Thank you, Councillor Bushell. The Director.
Through you, Mr Mayor. So that's an annual return that Council would need to do. Yeah.
That's right.
So, yeah, so that levy, when the draft fees and charges were put out, we were not certain that it would definitely be implemented. But after feedback was received, the authority said that organisations who had less than 50 internments could have a 12-month extension to implement the levy, but because Temora had 51 internments, we had to implement the levy from 1 July 24. Yep.
Further question, Councillor Bushell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So it's not too onerous on the staff with a yearly, then is it, rather than a monthly process that it had to include?
The Director.
Yeah. Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor. So a lot of the reporting we're already doing anyway. It's just a matter of capturing that levy and then remitting it. Yeah.
Thank you. I must say that the Country Mayors Association and REROC both wrote to the relevant ministers suggesting that local government should be exempt. However, it's a win we didn't have on this occasion. either of those organisations. The other thing, Councillor McLaren, I'll go to you before.
Just a clarification on the combo. Is that for both indoor and outdoor pool, or is it just for the outdoor pool and unlimited classes? That last on the draft fees and charges on page 155.
Thank you, Councillor McLaren. The Director.
Through you, Mr Mayor, my understanding is that it is for the indoor and outdoor pool, yes.
Thank you. Councillor Irvine.
Just to the General Manager, I suppose, with the group fitness stuff, public liability to be assumed by council, I imagine, in those cases with the instructors being employed by council and council running those classes.
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. The General Manager.
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor, yes, that would be the case. So in terms of, I guess, we already run a level of instruction and different activities through the rec centre, so that would be an extension of what we already do in that space.
Thank you. And further to Councillor Irvine's point, I asked a question of the General Manager this morning about, why we're doing this if there's something already being provided in the business sector, and the General Manager, you advised that Council have reached out to all those existing businesses, which is great, and they don't have any issues. That's correct, isn't it?
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor. The opportunity became available when there was equipment that presented itself to us with the closure of one of the gyms in town, and before any determination was made about whether or not to commence the group classes, yes, we consulted with the other gym providers in the area just to make sure we weren't taking away business from them.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. The councillors, were we given any special discounts for these fitness classes, or?
Through you, Mr Mayor, only for yourself for aqua aerobics.
Well, glad I asked that. Wasn't the answer I wanted. I will learn one day. Councillor Bushell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. That was sort of what I wanted to question on too. Not so much for the jovial type of thing, but having awareness of the EAP through that as a council policy. Maybe that is something that we should look at as a mental health or a supportive process, that we do offer some sort of discount. I know that some employers give you free access to certain fitness programs, so maybe that is something that we should and could consider through our EAP.
Now, thanks very much, Councillor Bush. I think the General Manager, you may even be looking at this, the General Manager.
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor, that is definitely something we are exploring, particularly from a staff perspective, looking for that as part of, I guess, the employee value proposition that we can deliver. It does need to be explored further because it does have fringe benefit tax implications and some other implications that we need to explore, but it is something that we're looking at.
Thank you very much. So, councillors, you have the draft fees and charges with the supplementary notes there in the report. Councillor Irvine.
I have some minor reservations regarding council operating in that space. I know recently we had the great discussion about going into business into taxis and things like that. Now, whilst there might be an identified need and there might not be any resistance from the current players in that space, it is council going into a private enterprise unrelated to council's core business. I can understand the wish to improve the profitability of the centre and the utilisation of the centre, but I've just got some reservations as to if this turns out to be break even or borderline, will there be a decision made as to the
longevity? Yeah,
like there needs to be some very careful scrutiny of something like this, because I don't consider this a core business of council, and I think it's also something that could be delivered from the private sector. And I've got great reservations about council moving into areas that can be delivered by the private sector.
Thanks, Councillor Irvine. Does the Director of Environmental Services wish to comment?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yeah, we've got our new rec centre manager around there, and we have challenged her to increase utilisation of the facility and also help better improve the budgetary position of that centre. This was an opportunity that presented itself. As I said, we did checking with the two incumbent organisations. Whilst you say we're not in that space, we provide a recreation centre and pool, aqua aerobics, etc. This is probably not too far a stretch to go down this path, and that's what we have decided to do.
Thank you, Mr Director. Councillor Bushell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. In relation to that comment that was just made, with the late John New, I did some mammoth amount of research by contacting people that were members of the committee who built the Temora Recreation Centre. And the main objective of that committee was to have it as a multi-purpose facility. So to see something like this being presented and being proactively by our new manager, I was excited. And to see that we've already done some proactive approach by contacting competitive businesses and they've got no issues, I don't see how we can be objective to it. It's no different to us approving another food facility within our main street. It's the main street is for community business district area. Hearing from the older people that were involved in that committee, they wanted it to be a multi-purpose facility.
Thanks very much, Councillor Bushell. And I think, again, I think it's very, very good that we're looking at other ways to enhance income where appropriate. Because, again, Councillor Irvine had some reservations and, again, met with the General Manager to discuss those through this morning. And I'm personally satisfied that, that this is a step potentially in the right direction, but I also acknowledge what you've said, that there must be review mechanisms in place to review that program if adopted. Thank you. The General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We're just in addition to that, we are required to undertake service reviews as part of our program of work at Council. For the new financial year, we've identified 2 service review areas, one being culture, tourism and arts activation, and then the other area being recreational service provision. That is quite a broad-ranging service review, so it incorporates not only recreation centre but also the utilisation of our fields and facilities as well. So during the 12 months of the financial year, recreation services is absolutely being looked at as a service offering, and that will have evaluation and I guess those opportunities to consider how we're travelling from a financial perspective but also from a utilisation perspective. Thanks,
Madam General Manager. Well, councillors, we have that report 15.4 draft fees and charges for the 2024-2025 year, and a recommendation that the schedule be adopted, including the amendments noted in the report. Is someone prepared to move that way? Is there an alternate motion? The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you. The Deputy Mayor has moved the recommendation as read. Seconded, Councillor Oliver. Moved, seconded. Further discussion? Further discussion? Councillor McLaren.
Just to note my concern about the exercise classes upstairs too. I know the other businesses may not have had an issue, but there's only so many people in town demanding health services, and I do worry that there may be some draw away from legitimate businesses that are trying to earn a profit in tough times. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor McLaren. And again, I have that view too, but I think that I'm proud of our staff that went and spoke to all of the relevant businesses, and when they've given the blessing, if there had been issues, then I think there'll be perhaps a different debate that we're having. So, but again, I'm comfortable, Madam General Manager, that again, with those review mechanisms in place, that the Council of the Day will be able to review those particular programs. So, I now will put the motion to Council. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. I declare that carried. Thank you. Let's go over to page 156, 15.5, the councillor fees, the Director of Admin Finance.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So the Local Government Remuneration Tribunal determined that councillor and mayoral fees should be increased by 3.75%. So the report outlines what that equates to. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Madam Director. Councillors, I know I can read your minds. You feel that it's very odd that we've got to determine our own fees, and I know we all feel uncomfortable, and there you see many submissions made that there should be the tribunal themselves to actually given the authority, but anyway, they don't want that authority, they want it in council's hands. Councillor Bushell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. In respect of the upcoming elections, I think the proposed 6, how you ever say that word,
Percentile.
is something that I'd move for. We want to attract people to want to be on council rather than deflect. So that's why I'd like to move that we have it at that.
So you're happy to move that the proposed fees be adopted, Councillor Bushell?
Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Bushell's moved that way. Second for the motion. Thank you, Councillor Reinhold. Moved. Seconded. Discussion. Councillor Irvine.
I'd like to see some mechanism where you could tie the revenue of council to the councillor fees so that councillors get paid once they deliver a surplus budget.
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. If you feel very strongly about that, I suggest you write to the Local Government Remuneration Tribunal for them to consider. Councillors, you have a motion there before you. I'm going to put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. I declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. We now, councillors, go over to page 197, 15.6, the ARIC appointment independent chairman and members. Now, ARIC, of course, stands for those that don't like acronyms, Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee. The Director.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. That's correct. Sorry that I didn't explain that in the
No,
report.
you did. You did in the report, but
Right.
for those listening that may not be looking at the report.
Okay, so there's a recommendation there in relation to the appointment of the independent chair and 2 independent members of the committee. I just wanted to add to my report, I guess, that we have sent out letters of thanks to our external committee members of our previous committee. So they included a community member and also 2 representatives of one of the Alliance councils. So we had the General Manager of Lockhart and the Finance Director of Lockhart. I just want to acknowledge Peter Veneris, who was our outgoing chair, and his retirement's also pending in the next couple of weeks. So anyway, happy to take any questions on the report or the recommendation.
Thank you, Madam Director. Madam Director, just to tease out what we discussed earlier today for Council, and that is the actual cost of the ARIC to Temora Shire Council, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. So the total cost that was presented to Council in February 24 was $53,543. So that incorporates the value of the chair, the independent members, the conduct of the actual audits throughout the year, and also some coordination with it. Blantyre Council has recruited a internal audit coordinator who helps coordinate the internal audits of the Alliance councils. So that's how that cost is made up.
Thank you very much, Madam Director. I know, councillors, what you're thinking, and many of us would share the frustration that we have to go down this path. However, it's legislated, and at least I think a positive is that we're in the Alliance, which I think make it far more affordable, Madam Director, yeah. Thank you. Councillor Judd.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I just wonder if the Director could, in simplified terms, tell us why we have the auditor, the outside auditors come and audit our books, and then we have the ARIC committee come and check the audit, please.
Thank you. Good question, the Director.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So I have to admit there probably is a level of duplication between the two, but the external auditors primarily are independent. They come in and it's largely a financial statement audit, so they look at internal controls, etc., in formulating the financial statements and ultimately looking to make a statement that the financial statements are prepared in accordance with accounting standards and the code, whereas your internal audits are more looking at efficiency and compliance with policies, internal procedures and things like that. Is that pretty fair? Yeah, does that answer your question? Yeah, but there is a certain level of overlap, I have to agree, and that is frustrating.
Thank you. Councillor Judd?
Thank you, that's all.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Councillors, you have the ARIC appointment recommendation and report there for you to consider. Is someone prepared to move the recommendation, or is there an alternate view? Thank you. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
I'll move the recommendation on page 199.
Thanks, Mr Deputy Mayor. Is there a second for the motion? Councillor Bushell. Thank you. Moved. Seconded. Further discussion? Further discussion? Councillor Irvine.
Just a question to the Director of Admin and Finance. The selection panel, could you just tell us who that was made up by and how they were selected, please?
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. The Director.
Through you, Mr Mayor. So the selection panel was the general managers of 3 councils. Our general manager was one of those representatives. The general manager of Coolman Shire, Tony Donoghue, and also the general manager of Junee Shire, James Davis. Sorry.
JD. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Irvine. You're happy with that?
Oh, I was just wondering how it was made up. It's interesting to note.
Councillor.
Interesting to note it's an ex-GM that's got the job, but I suppose that comes with some experience to look at it. But I just hope he knows what he's doing. Otherwise, 6 councils will end up in a financial black hole.
Thank you. Yeah, well, we're hoping like you, Councillor Irvine, that it's a strong appointment. From what the General Manager and Director have indicated to me, and it was unanimous view of the panel, so let's see how that goes as well. Thank you. If there's no further discussion, Councillor McLaren.
Could you just, I might have not read it properly. What's the term of this appointment of these office bearers? Is it like a term of council, or and then what is the process of renewal?
5 years. Thanks, Councillor McLaren. The Director.
Through you, Mr Mayor. So we're looking at offering this position to the 3 members for 4 years. So that's the maximum term allowed by the guidelines. There is an opportunity to then offer the positions for a further 4 years, but no independent member can go past that. They can't serve for more than 8 years in a 10-year period. They'd have to have a 2-year break and then come back if that's what they wanted. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor, the Director.
Sorry, I'll just add to that. So it is recommended that whenever there's a change of member, that you try to only have 1 member stand down at a time. So we'd look at, after this 4-year term, perhaps putting one of the independent members on just for a 2-year period, and then, try to transition that way.
Thank you. Councillor McLaren.
And is there a KPI or a performance review of their own roles? Like who oversees, like I guess if the council members aren't happy with their performance, they don't re-engage them? Or are they the ultimate bearer of decision making?
Thanks, Councillor McLaren. Councillor McLaren, I will remind Council that Councillor McLaren is Council's representative on the ARIC committee as well. The Director.
Through you, Mr Mayor, there is a review mechanism, and I believe at the end of the day it's Council's decision as to who the members of that committee are. So if there was an issue, it would come back to the elected body.
Thank you. That's a good point to exactly, yeah. Well, particularly as a member of the committee. Thank you. Well, if there's no further discussion, councillors, it's, well, I suppose a historical occasion, the first time we've had to do this. So we will put the motion to you that the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair and Councillor Bushell have moved, and that, of course, the recommendation that we appoint Mr Nick Tobin to the position of Independent Chairman of the Council's ARIC for a period of 4 years from the 1st of July 2024, and further the Council accepts applications of Ms Kylie McRae and Mr Phil Thomas to fill the positions of Independent Members of Council's ARIC for a period of 4 years from the 1st of July 2024. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare that motion carried. Thank you. Nothing further of an urgent nature, Madam Director?
No, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Well, if that's all you have, I would say to you on behalf of my fellow councillors, our warm congratulations to you and your team. You've put in outstanding effort in terms of preparing draft budget papers and, of course, other associated documents. So please accept our warm and deep appreciation to you and your team, and I'd ask you to pass that on from all of Council. We are genuinely grateful for your efforts.
Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Now, let's go to page 200, correspondence, 16.1, Southern Sports Academy, the General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. There is a typographical error in terms of the note. The donation should read for 23-24, not 24-25, where we've got ahead of ourselves a little bit there. However, the report is as written. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam General Manager. Councillor Bushell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move that we do the $200 per athlete with a total of $600.
Thank you. Councillor Bushell, before I ask for a seconder, I just wondered whether you would consider adding into the motion that that we request that current and future recipients of this to actually address delegates at the Temora District Sports Council meetings. Now, other grants that we have that Council give us, the Elite Sportsman's Grant, they come and talk to Council as well. And I think it puts some some focus on the fact that these are grants provided by Council, and I think it's important also for their development and have some responsibility as well. And it seems to work very, very well, certainly with the Elite Sportspersons Grant. Councillor Bushell.
Yeah, no issues with that suggestion.
Thank you. So can we include that, please? Thank you. Is there a seconder for the motion, please? Thank you, Councillor Reinhold. Moved. Seconded. Discussion. There's no further discussion. I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare that carried. Thank you very much. And we congratulate those that are on that list that may be listening that are interested. We have James Chalmers from Area Park for basketball, Eli Fuller for rugby union, and Cooper Gersbach for rugby union as well, and we wish them all the very best. Have I put that motion? I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Councillors, over to page 203, 16.2, the Area Park BNS Ball, the General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We've received a request from the Area Park BNS Ball to hire the mobile stage. The event approval for this particular event is subject to the committee receiving public liability insurance. It's there for the Council's consideration.
Thank you, Madam General Manager. Councillor Judd, do you have any comments that may help Council consider this request, please?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yes, the ball hasn't been held since 2019 because of COVID, and the last couple of years have been struggling to get insurance. So we're hoping that it can come off this year. Over the years, it started way back in the 80s, and they've probably put $500,000 in funding back into the Area Park and Temora communities over all that time. So it's amazing what they've achieved. My concern in my putting on my council hat is that I'm just wondering whether the committee know that the present mobile stage is probably smaller than the one they had back in 2019. whether it is appropriate or not, and I'd just like to make sure they are aware of that. And just checking on could someone fill me in what's the procedure now as to the hiring and setting up and taking down to the stage, please?
Thanks, Councillor Judd. General Manager, you're deferring to the Director of Administration and Finance.
Through you, Mr Mayor. So with the new mobile stage, council staff always establish the mobile stage and then dismantle, as opposed to the old mobile stage, which often cases we'd let the hirer come and pick it up and return it. Does that answer your question? Sorry. In discussions with the General Manager earlier too, we were wondering if, or a suggestion was that there's a requirement for a $400 bond, but with the new mobile stage, wondering if council had an appetite to charge a higher bond, just to be reflective of the value of the asset that we're hiring out.
Thank you, Madam Director. Councillor Judd.
Yeah, I note on the fees and charge, I think the non-refundable deposit of $400, well, as you can see what happened last time and it got damaged, it costs a lot more than that if it's not looked after. So, I'd be supporting some mechanism so that we get covered if there is any damage, So.
Thanks, Councillor Judd. Councillor Irvine.
Just a general comment in relation to insurance. It's in my own business, I've noticed massive increases across the board for all different forms of insurance, and I imagine these guys are going to find the same thing, and I'm pretty sure council would be noticing the same thing. So it's just something to note. That's fairly worrying trend. Seems to be post-COVID, but it's some insurances are going up in the vicinity of 40-50%.
That's exactly right. Thanks, Councillor Irvine. I go to Councillor Oliver.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I would support a greater bond for the new mobile stage as well, particularly with events like this, because I haven't been to one of these for quite some time. But toward the end of the evening, people aren't quite in control as what they might be at the start of the show. So I certainly would support an increased bond. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Oliver. Very eloquently put. Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As part of the hiring out process, I wonder whether it wouldn't be prudent to protect council to have a condition report where both parties sign at the beginning of the hire so that when it's returned, you can check that what they agreed works at the end so there's no dispute. Just a suggestion.
Thanks, Councillor McLaren. I think that's an excellent suggestion, but do we already have that or not really? No, we don't. Thank you, Councillor McLaren. The Deputy Mayor, you were hovering, Councillor Bushell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Hearing the comments regarding the uncertainty of how we return, is there something that we could do regarding the layout? Maybe there's more protection around the stage, more division. Like maybe that is something that we could sort of put saying, yes, we'd accept with the bond and that there'd be, I don't know, hay bales or something in between or, something more in addition to protect.
Thank you. Yeah, non-flammable. Thank you, Councillor Bushell. That certainly can be noted and considered. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. I've two minds about this too. While certainly the Harry Park Bears and Ballers put a lot of money back into the community over quite a few years, as it's been stated, that it is probably a higher risk of being damaged, this sort of event. So even if it's just a one-off, it's normally $400 bond that'd be raised just for $1,000 just for this particular event if council decide to go ahead with it. At the $400, if it stays at $400, I don't think council should be involved in it.
No, thanks, Mr Deputy Mayor. Councillor McLaren.
Is there something in the agreement that we hire out that says damage will be paid for? Like, is there that clause in it?
Thanks, Councillor McLaren. Question to the Director.
I'd have to follow that up, sorry.
Take it on notice.
Because that would cover your condition report. This is what it was. This is what it's like. You've damaged $1,200 worth. Fix it.
Thank you. So, thanks, Councillor McLaren. If Council are of a mind, because it seems like there's more information to tease out, you may defer this for consideration at the July meeting, so the General Manager and the Director and the team can further clarify some of these genuine questions that are coming from the chamber. Councillor Irvine.
I'm happy enough for the guys to use it, but that just needs to be something standard in the contract, that any damage has to be paid for by the user, and it's got to be some way of claiming it back. It's a little bit discriminatory to say that one event should pay a higher bond than another, but I think we do have to acknowledge that a BNS ball's a little bit different to, say, some speeches, at 10 o'clock in the park where one or two people are going to get up and basically foot traffic and all your other elements of it are a little bit less. There's a higher risk of all the carpet and stuff needing further cleaning. If it's a dusty event, there's all these other elements of it that can go to it. I don't know, I think I'd like to just see the bond remain the same and just make sure that the wording around any additional cleaning or any damage that's pretty tight, and the council protects itself in that fashion.
Thank you. Councillor Bushell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The joys of Google. I've looked at your policy and it says under 5.3 the stage must be returned in a clean and damage-free state with all equipment intact. Users will be charged for any cleaning repairs required. Hirers must complete the equipment checklist, etc.
So covered in the current policy. Okay, thank you. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I just think, seeing we do have a little bit of time up our sleeve, whether the discussion around the table, that maybe it'd be put off for a month and staff may be able to come up with a policy around, as Councillor Bush said, about some fencing or something in between, just a bit of protection and so forth, if things get out of control a bit. And I know that's another report for staff, but it's, I think there seems to be a bit of not too happy one way or another.
So, Mr Deputy Mayor, we're talking about this at length. Is someone prepared to move? Are you prepared to move some direction, or?
Well, I'll move the report be laid over to the July meeting, and a further report on maybe some additions to safety around the stage be brought forward or something.
For consideration, yeah. Thank you. Does that sound... The General Manager, I'm just trying to frame this to assist the Deputy Mayor. The General Manager?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd probably just suggest if we were going to delay it, to also include reference to anything we might need to do to tighten up or make clear of responsibility of users as well. So even having some discussion around how we might pursue that through our insurance or something like that, just to give certainty and awareness to the council. There's probably two parts to it. It's about how to protect the stage, but then it's also how to ensure that we can recover our costs, because a $400 bond really isn't going to cover if there's significant damage to that stage.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr Deputy Mayor, just looking here if we've captured what you have moved, that Council defers the report to the July Council meeting with a further report to be presented regarding the safety and conditions and costings around the stage. Is that, we're happy with that? Is the Deputy Mayor happy?
Yeah, as long as it includes the General Manager's comments too about, claiming insurance or so forth if there's issues.
Yeah, so that can be incorporated.
Assets, or do we want to
Beg pardon?
do we want to put it to the assets and ops meeting?
Yeah. So the movement, are you happy to include that at the July Assets and Operations Committee meeting? Thank you. Councillor Judd, are you seconding the motion?
I'll support the motion, but I'd like to see that...
So Councillor Judd has seconded the motion. Councillor Judd.
I'd like to see the representatives from the BNS committee invited to Temora before then to just inspect the stage, so they know that it's a different stage to what they had in the past, and whether they're happy to see their application go forward, because they might see, it's not right anyway, so it's... Yeah.
And Junior Shire have the old one, don't they? So does the mover and seconder want to incorporate that, or are council happy that that is assumed, that they be invited representatives?
I'd like to see it incorporated, really, so it does happen, so.
Okay, thank you. The Deputy Mayor?
I'm happy to have that
Include
incorporated.
that, okay. And further, that council invite, representatives. I think Mr. Jack Fisher's the new chairman, isn't he? He's the president of the football club too out there. He's a busy man. Just crafting this before I go to Councillor McLaren. Thank you. The mover and second are happy with what's on the screen? Yes. Thank you. Discussion on the motion, Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Does this cover revisiting the agreement that we rented out, and whether that includes condition reports, or?
It's all inclusive, isn't it? Yeah.
It doesn't talk about the agreement, but anyway, safety and condition around the stage. Okay.
Regarding the safety and condition. Okay, so the General Manager.
Mr. Mayor, if we add something around and the associated documentation or agreement, that will cover that off.
Okay, mover and seconder, are you happy to include that? Thank you. We're getting there. If there's no further discussion, I'm going to put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. I declare the motion carried, and thanks very much for that. The bottom line is that this council are thrilled to bits to see that the Area Park BNS ball looks very close to being reborn, and we wish them well on that journey, that's for sure. Let's go over to page 207, 16.3, Temora High School, the General Manager.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. We've had a request from Temora High School to receive one of the flags that we've recently endorsed to display as part of NAIDOC Week celebrations, and that would be a cost of approximately $140, and that could come from our donations budget. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam General Manager. Councillors, you have the report there. Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move that council donate the cost of one flag for $140 out of our donations budget, please.
Thank you. Councillor McLaren has moved that way. Second for the motion, Councillor Reinhold. Moved, seconded. Discussion. There's no discussion. I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Any urgent late items of correspondence, Madam General Manager?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Now, let's go over to page 210. We have nil business with notice, nil notice of motion. They're urgent items of business without notice. Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have one, and I think it is urgent. There's some new solar lights being fitted on the corner of Bundawarra Road and the Maranjal Road, and I think the other ones down further aren't working. I don't know whether it's a battery issue or a...
No, I don't quite...
solar lights, so I'm not sure what's happening.
Yeah, I might... thanks, Councillor Oliver. I might ask you to take that offline with the engineer. Thank you very much. No other urgent items. Thank you. Let's go over to page 211. Council's information paper. A motion please to receive the information paper. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Sinclair, Councillor Reinhold. Moved, seconded. All those of that opinion please say aye. Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Councillors, items out of the information paper. Councillor Judd.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I mentioned earlier that we attended the New South Wales Local Roads Congress. The report starts there on page 217, and The theme was planning for the future was very pertinent. Number of good speakers. I must mention that I've been attending this conference for a number of years, and a chap called Warren Sharp has been a former president of IPWA, and now has been a consultant in recent years. He's been a regular presenter, and this was his last presentation, and sadly he told us at the end that he's retiring in July, so won't be back to do any more. But Warren's been an excellent presenter in the past and this time. Former Director of Engineering at Eurobadala, in recent years been consulting to Central New South Wales JO and Canberra Region JO, and I encourage fellow councillors and staff to read his presentation, and I might, if the Assets Manager wants to have a comment, but that'll be a very good report as well, so thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Judd. Manager, you have any remarks?
Only to say that I agree with Councillor Judd. If you have a look through that particular report and any other report that he's done, he's very, very switched on, and a lot of that particular report is very, very relevant to Temora Shire. So that was the reason for attaching it, and happy to answer any questions or talk about it offline at any time.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Councillor Bushell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm not included in that discussion, it's another item.
No, that's Councillor Bushell. You have any items out of the information paper?
Thank you, Mr Mayor then. The building approval is going strong again, 12 I see, and then I'm so pleased to see there's a Anderson Street one there. I do have a question on 11 Everett Street. Is that part of a subdivided lot or is it a vacant lot? And the other one I have is 4587 Old Coota Road, the construction of a honey extraction shed.
Thanks, Councillor Bushell. The Director of Environmental Services.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. I'll deal with the Old Coota Road one. Yes, an extraction shed that's been relocated from a backyard operation, so it's good to get them in a zone that's suitable. Small scale at the moment, but it's a promising start to another business to operate in that precinct.
Thanks. Thanks, Mr. Director. I now go to Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. On page 227, that local roads conference paper has something about councils needing to have a local and regional road risk management policy and code of practice to limit our liability under the Civil Liabilities Act. I guess that's negligence or something. And if we're restricted in doing the work because of budgetary constraints, it protects us. Have we got a local and regional roads risk management policy, or is that something that we'll be working towards to limit our risk?
Thanks, Councillor McLaren, the Engineering Asset Manager.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. So I don't think we specifically have a risk management policy on this, but I think the point is with this is that part of the Civil Liabilities Act basically says that council can't be held liable for something that they're not aware of, but at the same time council needs to manage the risk. So part of it is that we're resourcing regular inspections and that we have a policy around that, and then we do what we say we're going to do. At the moment we have a policy around inspection, but we really struggle to resource it.
Thank you, Mr Manager. Councillor McLaren.
So you think that we would pretty much cover that in just in a different form?
Manager.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Listen, I think we've got the policy right. We probably still don't quite achieve the objectives of the policy.
Thank you. Councillor Judd.
Just while we're still on Warren Sharp's report, back to page 226, on the heading was "Your people are your key to success." A couple of words of wise wisdom there down the left in red. Leadership is helping others succeed with a sense of ownership over their patch, and people don't care what you know until they know that you care. So I think it's something we take on board to looking after our staff and that as well. So.
Great. Thanks, Councillor Judd. That's very important to highlight, and thank you. always one for quotes to add to the collection. Thank you. Councillors, further items of information paper. I go to page 216, the NCAT hearings, the General Manager. Has the matter been finalised yet, or are we still ongoing? You can take it on notice if you have to.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. No, it hasn't been resolved at this point in time. Once that matter, or the two matters have been finalised, a further report will be provided to council.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Further items, information paper? If not, I think we do need to note, councillors, the page 300, of course, the Raise the Recovery, the federal government giving us that increase of Raise Recovery funding. So, and we actually have already written to Ministers King and McBain on behalf of council, thanking them for those crucial funds. So, yeah, we must always give thanks, and that's the Temora Shire way. Nothing further, information paper. If not, in accordance with section 10A of the Local Government Act 1993, I advise that there are several matters that are deemed confidential. Accordingly, I require a motion to have those matters considered. Motion, please. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair, Councillor Reinhold, moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Council, welcome back to open council. I now call on the General Manager to please read the resolutions that are being proposed to be brought from closed into open session. The General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It was resolved that the reports from the minutes of the Assets and Operations Committee held on the 11th of June 2024, that the reports be received. It was resolved that the reports and recommendations as presented be adopted. In relation to the minutes of the Economic Development Committee held on the 11th of June 2024, it was resolved that the reports and recommendations as presented be adopted. In relation to Temora Shire Council Workforce Management Planning, it was resolved that council note the report. In relation to the Employee Incentive Scheme nomination, it was resolved that council awards an Employee Incentive Award. In relation to the second Employee Incentive Scheme nomination, it was resolved that council awards an Employee Incentive Award. In relation to Pinnacle Community Services, it was resolved that council proceed as outlined in the report. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Madam General Manager. Councillors, you've heard those resolutions that have been brought forward from closed session into open. Is someone prepared to please move that council formally adopt those resolutions? Councillor Bushell, thank you. Councillor Judd, moved, seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. I declare that motion carried. Well, thank you very much, councillors. There being no further business, I declare the meeting closed, and thank you very much.